Alright, today we are back for the third time in Paleo Park to add the first major enclosure to the zoo, and that is for the iconic Lokiceratops. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright, so hello everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Paleo Park, and isn't it funny, this is releasing on Halloween, which I guess it's not really funny, because this has nothing to do with Halloween. Well, I guess it's kind of, I didn't really plan that very well. This is like the least threatening species in the game. Maybe not the least threatening, I mean it has those, like the huge horns, but still, today we are building for the first big major species at the park, one that actually takes like a big hefty enclosure to contain it, and that is the Lokiceratops. I figured that we would build this one first because I wanted to do one of the brand new dinosaurs to kick us off, and I also wanted to start with one of the more docile ones like herbivores, and it was either between the Lokiceratops and the Ornithomimus, but I wanted to do something a bit more special for the Ornithomimus. I had the idea planned out for this area already, and I figured it would more be suitable for something on like a big four-legged kind of chunkier herbivore, like an ankylosaurid, ceratopsian kind of, rather than something that is more ostrich-like, like the Ornithomimus. And I do really want to build for the Ornithomimus. I was very much contemplating putting it here, or building for it first, but I do have an itch to build for it, so I will promise you that it will probably come soon enough. So this is technically our Halloween episode. If you do celebrate Halloween, happy Halloween. If you don't, then happy Friday, because of course it's a happy Friday. We have a new episode of this series going out. But again, if you celebrate Halloween, I hope you have a great day. It's nice that it lands on a Friday. That's pretty convenient. Like, in general, I figure it always lands on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. That's really annoying. But thankfully it lands on a Friday this year, so that's nice. So I hope you all enjoy that if you do celebrate the holiday. But if you do not, still, there is amazing things to celebrate, like this video. Yes, so today we have Lokiceratops, and the main attraction for this enclosure specifically is, of course, the viewing gallery. Now, of course, unfortunately, this is not a functional viewing gallery. I was so close to fitting a viewing gallery inside of the building, but it did not work, and to be fair, I'm not really heartbroken by this, because even if I could fit it in, you're not going to really see an actual, like a good view from it. You're just going to see blackness, because I used different windows, like the modular windows, throughout the entire building, so you couldn't see it. But regardless, I think, honestly, I built this with the sole purpose of just looking amazing, and feel like I'm gonna have that mentality a lot throughout the park, throughout building the series. So hopefully you don't expect too much of me when it comes to like actually making these things work. I did manage to put a restroom in it, so I figured, even though it's not supposed to be a restroom, I figured maybe there could be one inside, so I put a restroom in there, why not, and attached it, so it does have something in it, so that's nice. Of course, I am not doing interiors, but and I'll tell you what, last episode I said that I would not be doing interiors in this series, and if you heard that as like I'm taking like the high road or whatever and like not doing as much work, you would be very wrong. Because this build, the exterior alone, took so long to do, and it's very much worth it, and I really love how it came out, but it took a lot, and I think if I had to do the interior, I would probably end up on the floor exhausted. So I am glad that I am taking a step back from interiors. Again, I get that there's lots of pieces. I feel bad because they even give us like pieces that are like stable kind of pieces that we don't have in games like Planet Zoo. I really wish they would bring those over for interior, if you're listening, but I do feel kind of bad for doing that. But I did put lots of effort into the actual exterior of the building, and of course this kind of little plaza gardening area in front of the building, which we also are going to talk about in a second. But on to other great news for myself. I don't know if it's great for you guys, it might be informational. In the last 2 videos I have complained about the lack of generic pieces, and while I still do have those complaints about a few things, like the mainly lack of see-through glass, I managed to find the columns, which is something I had complained about in the last 2 videos, but I surprisingly found a decent set of them. There is a wooden beam set, which strangely to me has like like a weird texture on it, kind of, for like half of it. That's kind of weird. So there's that. There's not a lot of metal beams. The only ones that I could find are the ones that are like parts of the fence, so they're really small. So they're not the size of the giant wooden beams. So that's a bit of a shame. I didn't need those for my build. I just didn't really find any, and I figured they would have been in the same spot as the wooden beams. I don't think I even used the wooden beams that often either. I mostly stuck to the brick materials, or the brick set, of course, because look at the buildings. But I did manage to find some wooden beams. For specifically, there is the trim pieces. The trim pieces are very helpful. There's a wide variety of sizes and shapes of the trim pieces, and those are very useful for making like little textures in the walls, and of course doing like trims of like the windows and doorways. And my main takeaway from this build, but my personal like satisfaction, I guess, is the windows, and of course just the uniqueness of the shape. I love, and I'll throw it up, the image I used. It was actually a train station, surprisingly, because I figured I wanted to go for the brick aesthetic, and I looked at zoo enclosures and stuff, and I was like, okay, this is okay, but they're very basic. So I looked up train stations because I saw that someone, I watched a Best on Slot video that was like the most workshop build, the top workshop builds, which if you watch that video, you would know that I'm in it, which is great. I'm at like number 5. So thank you so much for showcasing my build. I mean, it means the world to me. Of course, you can watch that episode if you want. It's the last episode in the series, or the previous one, and you can also download that if you want. It is the Overraptor cage. And to add on to that, the Lokiceratops enclosure will be also on the workshop, and I will upload probably the shelter and the viewing gallery separately. I will maybe even make some smaller blueprints of like the planters and stuff. We do a lot in this episode, so I want to make the most of it, and I want to help you guys out the most, because I really feel like I want to be part of the community of way more than I have for Planet Zoo. Of course, Planet Zoo, we've been doing lots of like videos, of course, but I felt like I didn't upload as many things to the workshop, and mainly now because the workshop is so crucial to this game, I want to be part of the community more, and I want to be more helpful to you guys watching these videos. I don't just want to be like a look at what I can do. I want to help you guys by bringing stuff that I make into your own park, so you can actually be involved with it, and I can actually help you guys out and inspire you, hopefully, to make some of your own stuff or edit some of the stuff. For example, I would love to see what you guys do when I upload the giant brick building here. You could add more sections onto it and make it a larger building. The one thing that it's really throwing me off in this park so far is kind of the scaling of everything. I've had to make doors bigger than they should be, or like windows smaller than they should be, to make them look good, but I feel like they're not really that good when like actually looking at the scale to a person, and it's hard to do that because we don't have guests in the park. So that's kind of interesting to me. I don't think it's something that is crucial, and it's not something you notice until you look at the overall park, but even then it's very slight, so I don't think it's anything major, but it's just something that's kind of weird that I've had to like, I feel weird doing it, because it's like I'm changing the size of the person that's going through the doors, if that makes sense. I have to like upscale the doors when I shouldn't have to. It's kind of weird. I don't know. I mainly just try to do it in like in scale of the picture that I found. So that was that. The actual pen and like the fence inspiration was completely my idea. I tried to color scheme it kind of similar to the building, with using like a lot of the dark reds and the brick aesthetic. And I of course used part of the viewing gallery building to make that shelter area, which is a lot more simple than the viewing gallery, mainly because the main takeaway from that shelter viewing, or the shelter building, was like those giant arch gates, and I made multiple of them, kind of like a vehicle shelter, kind of, where like they store all like a bunch of like vehicles in together. I kind of used that, but for dinosaurs instead, so that we have different kind of like hatches and rooms or doorways that the creatures could go through. Of course, there is no interior. Maybe once we're done, I will add interiors to this, but for now, I am going to leave it as it is. So that's as far as it was for going for like building styles. Of course, I also added a kind of little like pond area to the outdoor section. The one thing that was really weird, that while I was building this, I didn't have this problem with the Overraptor enclosure, is that my undo button just suddenly wouldn't work for like the entirety of the session that I was building. So I basically didn't have an undo button, which was really weird. And it's okay with some cases, with like if I add something I'm not supposed to, I can just go back and delete it like manually. But like something that was really annoying was that I messed with, I got the, of course I have water in the middle of that planter area, and you can't have path near water, so I used the asphalt pieces to kind of level it exactly right with the path to make it look like it's all just one big path, kind of like plaza area. But then I accidentally used the terrain on it, or I elevated the terrain very slightly, and then it looked off. So then I tried to undo it and I couldn't. So I don't know, I spent like probably 20 more minutes after that fixing it. It still doesn't look too exact, but I don't know, it's just something annoying like that. I'm hoping it doesn't happen that much. It's been kind of going off and on, so It's not a huge thing, but still. But yeah, so that's overall that. With the scenery and stuff, I will say that it is a lot easier, of course, in terms of like relation to Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster. Actually, I've played Planet Coaster, but still, the actual building of like the nature and stuff in these enclosures are very quick. They are very easy to do. It's a matter of just adding a few rocks and stuff around the edges of the ravine, and of course adding lots of like plants and stuff around the edges of the river. Everything else is pretty easy to do. It's just, I love the brushes. The brushes are very useful. I'm not completely going by the rules. Like the enclosure, I don't think is quite big enough for them, or at least it doesn't have the specific foliage that they need. However, I did use, I mean, the problem is that they need ground fiber, and the problem with ground fiber is that I like the short little shrubs it comes with, but it also has these weird kind of like paleofauna type trees that don't fit at all with like a natural modern zoo. So I try to do it where it doesn't spawn the trees and it only spawns the bushes, which I got to a degree. So there is some of them in there, so they can eat. It's just not as much as they need, which again, I turned on Dinosaurs Don't Starve, so it's gonna be fine and everything, but still, I tried to keep that realism a bit more in tone and in place than I would in like Planet Zoo. In terms of the actual dinosaurs, after playing around more with them, the one that I absolutely love is the dimorphism. And I know that a lot of the species people have been kind of like controversial with because they've made some weird choices with designs for the males or the females for that matter for some reason. But they've chosen to make the models of some dinosaurs from the previous games males, but then change the female models, which I don't really understand that well because most of the dinosaurs from the films are females. So why wouldn't you just make a different male model? Because I feel like they're trying to like change some of the things. Like with the Giga from Dominion, it's super spiky, so they tried to switch that to the male design and then had the female be less spiky because it's more what people wanted from the Giga, and it would make the Giga look more natural. But it kind of messes with that. That's like it's confusing to see them do this with some species but not all the species, and we've seen this with like other species with like Sinoceratops. We've seen got absolutely butchered. I can't even. The male looks fine. The male looks, I think, the normal structure of it from like the last games, but the female, man, good god, that looks so weird. They made it longer, chunkier, and like fatter, but also just like made the skull or like the frill a lot shorter, so it just looks so weird, and it's just, oh my god, it just looks cursed. And it's sad because the baby looks really good and the male looks really good, but it's just, oh my god, that looks terrifying. Yeah, that's not really pleasant to look at. But the main thing that I really like with this is that maybe just because I'm using a really popular species that looks really good, but the main thing I like now is that you can establish, especially with these skins that come in these games, that you can establish the alphas and like the actual group mechanics. Personally, what I love doing is making a group of about 3 or 4 species, one of them being the alpha male, which would have the really bright, vibrant coat or like vibrant patterns, and then you had the females, which I would give more like brown kind of patterns or like offsets, because this is what you see a lot in birds in today's world. You see, of course not all birds, but a lot of bird species, the females are like the more like bland brownish grayish colors, and the males are the more striking vibrant bright colors. And with the game, in the last games of course, we didn't have males and females, so you couldn't really establish these groups. But now you can see how I put it in the end cinematics is that I put one really bright red male and 3 brownish females, and it overall, I don't know, I just really like it, and I love seeing like them work together and like the whole like group mechanic. It just feels so much more together than it was in the previous games. The animals feel a lot more alive, of course, especially the babies add on to that. But again, the babies aren't a huge thing to me. Placing nests is a bit of a hassle, but it's not really anything major. It's just, I don't know, the babies is just something that I like. They're cute, but they're not game changing for me. The game changing mechanic is, of course, by now, if you haven't seen yet, is the modular building. For me at least, it's game changing for me. And of course, like the waterfalls and terrain stuff is also good, but I usually make a lot of flat parks, so it's hard to say how much that really is going to affect me. But regardless, I think that brings me honestly to like my overall thoughts so far. If they've been updated, I like to like bring in my updated thoughts as we keep going throughout this with each episodes. And by now we have built for one of the major new species, and we have also found more pieces. And of course with that, I am loving this game even more. I still think that there are more pieces that they can add, and they should add to the base roster of pieces, like mainly see-through glass, and now also probably metal poles or metal beams, ones that are the size of the wood columns. Stuff like that I think should still be included in the base game, but other than that, I don't think I have any major problems. Of course, the biggest problem right now that is a priority is getting the console version of the game like better and working with the complexity meter again, as in actually letting people on console make modular builds without like taking out 50% of their complexity meter, which is absolutely ridiculous. That is the main priority, and then a couple other things like little bugs and stuff. We can see that they're releasing lots of patches and stuff for this game, which is great to see. They're on it already in the first week, so that is great to see. And hopefully we can probably see a first DLC in December. I'm hoping that they don't do this. They shouldn't have to do it where they did it with like Planet Coaster 2. The reception of the game has been amazing, so I don't see a reason why they can't, as long as they can get the console stuff fixed. I don't see a reason why they can't go right into DLC, and I would assume that because they know the reception of this is probably going to be really good, which it has been, they would right away just start with the DLC. And they did that with Planet Coaster 2. They had a DLC scheduled, even though it wasn't received well. It was like, well, people don't like the game so far, we're going to fix it, but we have to release this just because we have it ready to go. And I feel like with this, it's going to happen again. We're probably going to get it probably in the beginning of December, and this time it will hopefully go better than last time, because the game actually is receiving a lot of praise and a lot of positivity, which also of course includes me. So anyway, I think that's going to have to wrap it up. I've yapped for a while now. Again, I will say all the stuff that you see in this video, the viewing gallery, the shelter, and the planters and stuff probably will all be available on the workshop. I will put the share codes down below when I have the chance, probably within like the next day, hopefully, of this video being out. I will have them out at like the latest of like that's the latest that they will be out. I will probably put them down, hopefully, if I can remember this tonight of this video going out. But other than that though, if you did enjoy this video, please hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the channel. We have been escalating on a crazy fast rate of the past 2 videos because you guys have been absolutely amazing with like the reception of these videos. You guys, from what I've seen, really like it. I've loved seeing all of your comments in the last video, and like I like seeing people come over from that best in slot video to here because it introduces us to the community, which is what I really want to establish. So if you did enjoy this video, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment down below what you like about the enclosure, what animal should I build, or what dinosaur should I build for next. And I will say that I think next week I am going to try to get back into Planet Zoo, and we'll continue working on the Japan section. I want to keep balancing these, so I do want to work on these at the same time. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the next video for this series will be out any slower. It just means that I'm going to try and balance myself again between 2 games. So keep that in mind with the next following uploads in the upcoming weeks. So with that, cinematic shots at the end of the video as always, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye guys, have a great rest of your day.